Okay, the next one I'm going to explain is BB.7. It's super easy. You just want to remember what is the zero product property. The zero product property means that anything times 0 is 0. So if A times B equals 0, that means that either A is 0 or B is 0, because only something times 0 would equal 0. Does that make sense? Okay. So if they're telling us that this expression is equal to 0, then that means that either, okay, well, let's take a step back. What is going on here? This is really V something times parentheses, that's something else. So it's really two things. One thing times another thing being multiplied with each other, which is the same as A times B. So something times something equals 0. That means that either V is 0 or what's inside the parentheses is 0. So there's two possibilities, and that's why you have two answers. So either V is 0 or what's inside the parentheses is 0. So if V plus 5 is equal to 0, that means that V is what? What is V equal to if V plus 5 is 0? -5. Does that make sense? I can't tell because can't see your faces, so I don't know if you look confused or if you're bored. So I'm going to move on, but yeah, pretty much V is equal to 0 because of what I just said. And then you just look at what's inside the parentheses, you make that equal to 0, and you solve for V, which means that you need to bring the 5 to the other side. 0 minus 5 is -5, therefore V is equal to 0. Okay, that's all it is in these questions. So there's also a video tutorial if you want to watch it. So over here, either this parenthesis is equal to 0 or this parenthesis is equal to 0. Now the shortcut is you could just think about it. What minus 4 is equal to 0? +4. What minus 5 is equal to 0? +5. So when they're in this form where it's just a variable minus a number or plus a number, is usually the opposite of this number. Because, 5 minus 5 is 0. So let's look at another example so you don't feel like I'm just, take a moment to think about it and try to tell me what's the answer here. Okay, so I've done so many of these that, you just know that is the opposite of this number. So it's going to be -5 and +3 without thinking much about it. Now, the explanation of why it's -5 is because if we take this equation, z plus 5, and we make it equal to 0, that means z has to be -5. How do we know? Well, we need to get rid of the 5 on both sides. No, I didn't do that right. Sorry. Z is equal to -5. Okay. So it's usually the opposite of this number as long as the variable is by itself. Okay. Why did we make that equal to 0? Because it's saying that something times something is equal to 0. That means that either this whole expression is 0 or this whole expression is equal to 0. That means that z is either -5 or z is equal to +3. Okay? It might not make sense right now if this is new to you guys. Like everything else in life, at the beginning it's hard. At the beginning it doesn't make sense. You do a few of these, just do 10 questions to see how you feel. After a while, you'll do them without thinking about it, and you'll wonder why you never, why you thought it was hard when it's actually a piece of cake. I promise you, this is the easiest thing.